Hey everybody, this is Ron, and today I'll be taking a look at The Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. This is one of the projects in a slew of new takes on the classic Universal monsters from Image Comics. This is a very worthwhile idea to me because I think there's a growing interest in the older monsters lately. The reason they have endured so long is because the designs are so iconic, and aside from Dracula, there's usually a tragic sort of melancholy attached to the Universal monsters and a certain aesthetic that's more pleasing and timeless compared to stuff like Freddy or Jason, for example. No offense to them. So far, Image Comics has done 3 of these. Dracula came out first, followed by this story about the creature, and then the latest was Frankenstein. The reason I'm reviewing this first is because it's the first hardcover I found at the comic shop, but I will grab Dracula when I can because I'm interested to see what they've done with the Bela Lugosi Dracula story. So anyway, the hardcover is very nice. The cover art is very enticing, and I like the format of these new Universal monster stories. They have all been 4 issues so far, and this is perfect for this material because all of the Universal monster movies are quick watches, so this length fits in with that brisk pace that the movies had. This particular story follows a journalist named Kate Marsden who is on the trail of a serial killer who has moved to the Amazon, and she has a personal vendetta because this guy almost claimed her as one of his victims. His MO is drowning the victim, which obviously fits in with this material pretty well and leads to some nice imagery throughout the comic. This book was written by Dan Waters and Ram V with art by Matthew Roberts. And this is the first time I'm reading any of their stuff. The art took about an issue to get used to, but I ended up really enjoying it. It reminds me a little bit of someone like Matteo Scalera, whose work I really like. The advantage of doing a 4-issue reimagining of something like this is it gives the artist time to really settle in and give every panel 100%, and you can tell. Even the little throwaway panels are given a lot of attention and detail, and that's something you don't always get when you have an artist cranking out an issue every month to keep up with deadlines. I like the premise of this book with the serial killer angle overall, but I just don't think it was executed all that well. I know I said I like this format, but I think you need more than 4 issues to tell a story of a journalist tracking down a killer. I feel like there isn't enough time to get to know our main protagonist and care about her trauma, and the same goes for the serial killer. It just wasn't developed well enough to really dig into that story and feel any sort of tension between the two, for me at least. Kate is still haunted by the experience of drowning, and I think using the imagery of the lagoon and the creature, Kate's reflection in the water, the flashbacks, all of this is enough to know that she still thinks about what happened to her, and it's hard for her to move on. But instead, there's a page that really breaks that show don't tell rule, and I just thought it was pretty bad, to be honest. Kate watches a bird almost kill a fish, and the fish gets away. And then she goes on a whole tirade to herself saying how the fish is so lucky that it got away because unlike her, the fish can just forget about what happened. And it's like, yeah, I get it. You're suffering. And I just think it was a little too much. I think it was a terrible way to convey that when it could have been done more subtly and artfully. The supporting characters were okay. Dr. Edwin Thompson is a character from the original film, so that was cool to see. He has a grudge against the creature for attacking him and leaving him scarred, which sort of parallels Kate's story. I did start to get confused at one point when all the major players are in the Amazon, and Thompson has scars on his face, and so does Collier, the serial killer. So when it kept jumping back and forth between them, it was was a little confusing. The creature itself looks great here. Like I said before, the design is so iconic and the artist does a great job staying true to that look. There are a couple splash pages with the creature attacking people that are some of my favorite moments because you don't get much of the creature in this overall. They do a good job keeping the creature hidden in the shadows at the beginning, but I thought the full reveal was a little lackluster. There is one part where the creature is in a tree looking in on Kate, and then he jumps back into the water, and it was really neat to see him diving like that from so high up, and that's something they couldn't execute in the old film, but you can do stuff like that in comics. The whole thing towards the end with Collier using samples of the creature to make himself a twisted version of the monster was a little weird, but I think they were going for a little bit of a body horror thing, which was grotesque, but ultimately I feel like he met his demise too quickly, and the whole story ended on a pretty somber note. I have to admit I was slightly disappointed with this story. I guess it's partly because I thought it was going to be set in the 1950s and have a more retro vibe instead of a modern story. But that's not the biggest deal. And like I said, I didn't mind the idea of a serial killer relocating to an area where the creature lives, but I just didn't think it was told very well. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on The Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. I want to review the other Universal Monster books at some point. I'm currently reading the Frankenstein one, and I think it's fantastic so far, so look out for that. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.